in business and in anything in life, the first thing I always recommend is we should learn to do post-mortems. So at the end of every day, for example, what worked today? What didn't work? What did I do well today? What didn't I do well? You need to have that as an attitude, because if you don't do a post-mortem and find out why you failed and what changes you need to make in order not to fall the second time, you will keep falling. So every time you fall is an opportunity to learn. If there's no vision of where you are going, any opportunity can distract you. When lions are hunting, they're focused. There could be a herd of 200 cows. They're focused on one.
That's true.
So you see, focus in life is a powerful tool for success. When there's no focus, you're unlikely to be successful.
Is there every field that can make someone a billionaire or that can make someone very well?
No. So as entrepreneurs, what you need to do is be very well informed so that you can constantly take calculated risks.
Okay, now someone will say, okay, and now I've started my business. I need to generate customers. Are there strategies that someone can go about generating customers for the business the person has started?
Of course, there are always strategies.
Okay.
First of all, what's the problem you are solving? Why should a customer come to you? Because human beings are human beings. We have self-interest. So for me, I won't come to you because I like you. I must come to you because there's something you are selling that I want or I need, and you're selling it at a price that I can afford and I feel is worth what you're selling to me. So there are strategies. Who are your customers? What are they looking for? Why are they buying your products? Why should they buy from you and not from the next man? So those are all the things you must consider and in developing your strategy. But that also comes from having a fair understanding of the product, the problem you are solving, the people you are trying to sell or solve those problems for, and what are the things that informs their decisions. For example, there are some products that are called, that have what you call SNOB appeal.
SNOB appeal.
Which means that if it's not expensive, the people won't buy it.
If it's not expensive, the people won't buy it.
Because they consider it to be of inferior quality. That's why it's called SNOB appeal.
SNOB appeal, okay.
So if it's cheap, it's considered inferior.
Wow.
Whereas there are some products that if it is not very cheap, nobody is going to buy it.
How do you differentiate those businesses?
Well, you need to know. So that's why you need to understand what problem are you trying to solve. Let me give you an example. The man that wants to buy a Rolls Royce, and the man that wants to buy the cheapest Toyota or the cheapest Hyundai, okay? The person that wants to buy that car and the person that wants to buy a Rolls Royce, they're not solving the same problem. They're not solving the same problem. The person that wants to buy a Hyundai wants to just move from one place to the other.
That's true.
But the person that wants to buy a Rolls Royce wants the world to know, I have arrived. So it's not just moving from one place to the other. There's a SNOB appeal to owning a Rolls Royce. When you get to a place and you come out of a Rolls Royce, you are making a statement that I'm not an ordinary person. I'm a very successful person. That's why if you go to a place, in a club or a place and they are bouncing every car, when someone comes in a Rolls Royce, they will find space. Because that is what the person is buying. So you need to understand, who are your customers? What product are you selling? What problem are you solving? So the person is selling Rolls Royce is not solving a transportation problem. It's the person selling Hyundai that is selling a transportation problem, or that is solving a transportation problem. The person selling Rolls Royce is not solving a transportation problem. It's solving a SNOB appeal problem, a status symbol problem. That's what he's selling. So you need to understand what you are selling, because that will now determine what is important to the customers.
No.
So for a Rolls Royce, the more specialized the car is, the better it is, regardless of how expensive it is. The person buying Hyundai, please just give me the basic one. I don't want all those extra. Give me I just want a car that will take me from here to there.
Finish. Now, are you the person now to create that appeal for your business to make it expensive, or you should just create a business or a product and then give it big price so that you can have that appeal of Rolls Royce, or give it a small price so you can have that appeal of the cheapest Toyota?
For you to solve a problem like that is SNOB appeal, you must have a brand.
Must have a brand.
Because you must have something that people will recognize that this is status symbol. If I start making shoes now and I want to sell it at the same price that Gucci is selling their shoes, nobody will buy from me. I say, what is this? Just ordinary leather, he wants to sell it for $1,000. Is he well? No.
Even though it may be of same quality of Gucci.
You see, a Gucci shoe that is $1,000 is actually, the cost is actually about $300. The remaining $500 is the brand.
It's just the brand name. Wow.
It's the brand name.
Wow.
It's the brand name.
So someone can actually be selling something of same quality of Gucci, but cannot be able to put the price of Gucci.
Why do you think brands like Gucci have grade A, grade B, grade C, what do they call those things again now? Fake, what they call counterfeits. There's grade A counterfeits of Gucci. Grade A is simply almost the same thing as what Gucci has made, apart from the fact that it's not made in Gucci factory. That's all. Grade B is now lower quality. And guess what? Those same products that they put Gucci, it might be the same Chinese manufacturer that is making grade A, but this time around it's not Gucci that is on it, but it's the same product. So the fact that it doesn't have that brand on it is what makes the difference.
Now, how can someone have that strong brand or build up that brand?
You see, for you not to have a brand and you want to create a product with a SNOB appeal, is very difficult. Because what are you selling? If, for example, today now, music stars, film stars, even some sports stars, they make perfumes and they put their name on it. And they sell it for a high price. Because they are already recognized names in other sectors. They are not known in perfume, but at least they are known in those other sectors. So they already have a brand.
A brand name.
That can work. But you are you're a non-entity you have not made any name in anywhere. You want to put a high price. Where's the brand value coming from?
Do you think the brand value will come from maybe the person doing that and then selling it, creating the market for it, then build that appeal to people?
If you, first of all, create a market, then you now want to create a product that you want to sell as a higher value, that can work because you already have a product in the market. So you are now bringing this one and saying, my other product is for everybody. But this particular product is not for everybody. That can work. But that you're just coming, you don't have any product, you don't have any brand anywhere, it's unlikely to work.
Okay. Now, back to the business plan that you were discussing about. You didn't put in place challenges, failure, and all of that. If someone starting up a business and started experiencing challenges, failure, and all of that, how can one go about working around experiencing failure in business?
Okay, I think the first thing you need to ask yourself, if in business and in anything in life, the first thing I always recommend is we should learn to do postmortems.
Postmortem.
So at the end of every day, for example, what worked today? What didn't work? What did I do well today? What didn't I do well? You need to have that as an attitude.
Okay.
So that's principle number one on a daily basis in everything in life.
Okay.
When you now come to business, if the business, first of all, before a business fails, you would have gotten to a point where your income is less than your expenses. And when your income is less than your expenses, it means you are not selling enough products or service or whatever it is you're selling to cover your expenses. So that's even before the business fails. So even before the business fails, you need to now start asking yourself, why am I not selling? Is my product not good enough? Am I selling in the right market? Am I pricing appropriately? Is my quality good enough? So those are the first questions you need to ask before you even get to the point where the business fails. If you finally get to a point where the business fails, then you need to now go further. Was the idea even a good idea in the beginning? Because sometimes, especially when it's a startup, when you are starting, it looks like a very good idea. But when you now get into the market, you suddenly discover that nobody wants to pay for that product. For example, in Nigeria, because most people are dealing with poverty, there's something called Maslow's hierarchy of needs. When people are dealing with poverty, their priority is very simple. Eat, drink. And when I say eat and drink, I'm talking the BRS cost. Sleep, clothes, then basic transportation cost. Anything that is beyond these 5 things that you want to sell to such a person, you're wasting your time. You're wasting your time. So if you are now bringing a product and say, this thing, it will help you to stay strong, it's vitamin A, vitamin. Okay. The by way I chop yesterday, now without what do you use your vitamin, whatever for? So these are some of the things that you learn when you start a business, that thing you thought everybody will need or everybody will want may not necessarily be so. People might be dealing with more fundamental problems than you imagined. Or there could be somebody else that is selling a fake. And because everybody is looking for that extra savings, they're not interested in the quality you are selling. That fake one is enough for them. Because their priority at that stage of their life is they're just surviving. So those are all the things you need to look at. If you fail, you need to now assess all those questions. Was the idea correct? If the idea was correct, did I implement it in the right way? Was there something I did that I shouldn't have done? Or was there something that I shouldn't have done that I did? And so on and so forth.
Okay, now, at what point would someone, after experiencing one failure after the other, you used to hear, hey, motivational speaker would say, don't give up, press on, carry on, don't give up. If you fail 7 times, you rise up 8 times. At what point would someone say, okay, this is time to give up on this thing, go and look for something else? Or the person should keep pressing on because we have been hearing, don't give up, press on, press on.
Let me correct if you fall 7 times, rise up 8. Whenever you fall, you need to do a postmortem.
Okay.
Because if you don't do a postmortem and find out why you fell and what changes you need to make in order not to fall the second time, you will keep falling. So every time you fall is an opportunity to learn. One of the things I have learned is you need to know both what to do and what not to do. Knowing what not to do is as important as knowing what to do.
Knowing what not to do is as important as knowing what to do. Okay.
So when you fall, those are opportunities for you to learn and know what not to do.
Okay.
Because if you don't learn and make those corrections, you will keep falling. Let me give you an example. I started my company, or the first company, and shut it down twice before I finally was able to keep it going. For one simple reason. It was an advisory business and we didn't have income coming every day. But I had staff. So every month, we had to pay salaries. Income wasn't coming regularly, but expenses were coming regularly. So at some point, if those incomes don't come as regular as is required to meet your cost, you will shut down. So I had to learn that if your incomes are not regular, your costs had better be very, very low. So that one income can cover costs for 1 year. So that's step number one.
Okay.
If your incomes are not regular, your cost must be as low as possible.
Okay.
Step number two, when your incomes are not regular, you have to find alternative sources of incomes until you can become regular. So now, but for your cost to be low, I now have to recognize that when you are starting a business, you can't hire the best staff. You can only hire the staff you can afford. You can't hire the best staff.
That's true.
You cannot pay like Shell. You cannot pay like Zenith Bank. You're a startup. You don't have that money. So you hire what you can afford. And more often than not, what you can afford may not be very good quality. But that's what you manage until you can stand. So every time you fall is an opportunity for you to learn what to do and what not to do next time.
Okay. So in this case then now, if someone falls, it's an opportunity to learn what not to do next time. Are you trying to say that someone should just learn what not to do, then continue with the business? Or there should be a point in time where the person should say, maybe this thing is not just my place or my calling. Let me move to something else.
Now, like I said, every time you fall, you must learn. So, falling is only useful if you are constantly learning good lessons. Because then you are becoming better every time you rise up. And sometimes you could actually come to a point where you discover that probably this business is not good for me at this time, or this business is not even good for this economy at this time.
You change.
And then you change. But the bottom line is, every fall, you must learn. What mistakes did I make? What must I correct? How do I do it next time? If you don't learn those lessons, you keep falling.
How can someone deal with that desire, that hunger for different opportunities when somebody is doing something here and maybe another opportunity just come up? They say, this is the next place now that something is happening here. Person moves to that place, doing. Then you hear another news again. This is the next place now. Opportunity is coming up here. There is money here. If you jump into this business, you're gonna make this kind of money. Person moving from different business, all in the name of opportunity. What are you going to see in that kind of scenario of someone making focus or moving into different opportunities?
Vision.
Okay.
You know, there's a saying in the Bible that when there's no vision, people perish. If there's no vision of where you are going, any opportunity can distract you. But when there is vision, you're not distracted. If I say I'm going to Abuja and I'm going to the airport to catch a flight to Abuja, I cannot be distracted.
At all.
I know where I'm going. So on the road to the airport, if anybody stops me and says, there's something nice here. No, I'm going to Abuja. When I get to the airport and the flight for Benin is announced, that's not for me. I'm going to Abuja. Vision. When there's no vision, you will get distracted.
Okay.
You will be confused. Okay. Because there will always be all kinds of things that will come your way. And you'll be wondering whether to turn right or turn left because of all those opportunities. But when there's vision,
using the example you make of you are going to Abuja and then you hear a flight for Benin announced, all you know is that you are going to Abuja. If a flight for Benin is announced and then you know you are going to Abuja to make 1 billion naira, and then they announce flight for Benin and they say that Benin we're going to make 5 billion. Why don't you switch to Benin and go and make 5 billion?
Vision.
Still back to vision.
Vision. Vision. You've heard me say sometimes that if you make me governor of Lagos, I won't pray about it before I say no.
You reject it outright.
Correct. It's vision. Vision.
Okay, what is vision?
You know, if you look at, I like watching some movies, or no, some educational films on lions. I like the lion. When lions are hunting, they're focused. There could be a herd of 200 cows. They're focused on one.
That's true. That's very true.
So you see, focus in life is a powerful tool for success. When there's no focus, you're unlikely to be successful. You'll be drifting left, right, and center.
That's true.
So vision gives you enhanced focus.
Wow.
And your capacity to succeed is significantly increased when that is in place.
So what is vision? What is vision?
Vision is simply a picture of where you want to go to.
So what's the plan like in setting up a vision? What should be the idea? Like, what are the elements of your vision?
Wow. The first thing is, what dream do you have? What's your idea of a future you want to create? So that's the first thing that must be clear. What future are you trying to create? So when you have that dream, you have to document it. That dream has to become clear. You have to document it. What does it look like? So if I want to build a house, I have to first have a picture in my mind. Is it a 5-bedroom house? Is it a 2-bedroom house? Is it standalone? Is it a bungalow? Is it a high-rise? What's the dream? What's the picture? When I have that picture, then I need to document it as we put down in writing. Okay. So until the dream is put down in writing, you can't call it a vision. You're still dreaming.
It must be in writing.
It must be in writing.
It cannot be in your brain.
No. It's because when you put it in writing, you now begin to question some fundamentals about it. Does it even make sense? And then, how do I get there? So the first thing is, does it make sense? Second question now becomes, how do I get there? Now, if I don't put it in writing and be clear as to what it looks like, I can't develop a plan to get there because I'm not even sure where I'm going. So putting it in writing clarifies it and makes it clear, this is what I want to accomplish. Then, and only then, can I now start saying, okay, how do I move from where I am today to that place that I want to accomplish? So planning can only start when the vision is clarified. Vision is only clarified when it is documented.
What's the best way someone can be able to measure success or track success in business?
It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. For example, if I'm a lawyer My success as a lawyer may not necessarily be in monetary terms.
Okay.
I may be more interested in becoming a senior advocate. Or I may be more interested in, I'm passionate about people going to jail for crimes they didn't commit. So what you are trying to accomplish will determine what measurement tools you need to put in place.
Okay.
So because it's not everything can be measured in monetary terms. Success is only in money, it's not only in monetary terms.
Okay.
It could be many other terms.
Like?
I'm just giving you one. If I'm a lawyer, becoming a senior advocate might be my goal. That may not necessarily be monetary. You can be very rich as a lawyer without being senior advocate. And you can, yes, you could go into commercial law, you could go into shipping law. In shipping law, you may get paid in dollars. You may not necessarily become a senior advocate, but you make a lot of money. I have a few friends who are some of the richest lawyers in this country. They are not interested in becoming a senior advocate. Because all they do deal with the agreements. And in those agreements, they are paid. They don't need you to come and pay for them to represent you in court. Because it's in court that senior advocates are really respected. Because they have ranking. So if a senior advocate has a case, and somebody that is not a senior advocate has a case, the senior advocate's case will be listened to first, and so on and so forth.
So how does that example come down to a product?
Now, in a product, for example, what am I trying to solve? What problem am I trying to solve? If I'm a hospital, for example, my priority may not be just making money. My priority might be, I don't like seeing children die before they are 5 years old. So the number of children I can help with their medical problems, it determines my measurement of success. So those are the first things you need to recognize. What are you trying to accomplish? That now determines what or how you measure your success. But if it is just you want to become wealthy, or you want to just, and then you can only measure by monetary value. But not every sphere or not every field can be properly measured with monetary terms or in monetary terms.
Okay. Is there every field that can make someone a billionaire or that can make someone very wealthy?
No.
Why?
Becoming a billionaire, for example, has to do with number of products you're selling and the price you're selling those products. If I'm a brain surgeon, my chances of becoming a billionaire as a brain surgeon is very slim. Yes. How many surgeries of the brain will I have to do before I can make $1 billion? How much am I charging? And how many people can afford? So, for example, if I charge $20,000 per operation, I need to do 50,000 operations.
Wow.
To make $1 billion before my expenses.
Wow.
So how on earth am I going to do 50,000 operations? I'm one person.
Wow.
Not every field can make you a billionaire.
Not every field. Okay, what if someone have that vision or that desire to be a billionaire, and it's in a particular field that you think that cannot make the person a billionaire? What should the person do?
If your goal is to be a billionaire in dollars, for example, my first advice is you need to go and study the world's richest people. There are about 2,000 billionaires in the world that is recognized today. And you need to now study and find out what are the fields, where do they operate.
If you study that areas,
then you can now based on where they operate, then you can now say, okay, where can I operate out of all of this? And what will be the scope? Because somebody that is a billionaire in sports, you can't be a sports in Nigeria and say you want to be a billionaire. It cannot happen.
Even if you are playing outside of the country?
It cannot happen. Players don't become billionaires in sports.
And there is no player, even dead or alive, that is a billionaire in sports.
The players that have become billionaires did not become billionaires from the sport. They became billionaires from the brand.
Wow. Okay. Break it down more.
Okay. I'll give you, there are 3 sports people today that are billionaires. Number 1 is Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan is arguably the best basketballer that ever lived. But he made only $90 million in his entire career as a basketballer.
In his entire career, 90 only?
Yes. So how did he become a billionaire?
Shoes.
2 things. It wasn't even the shoes. From his career as a billionaire, as a basketballer, a brand was created. Nike shoes, Air Jordan brand. In such a way that Nike pays him money every year based on how those shoes sell.
Wow.
And right now they pay him close to about $100 million a year.
Wow.
For those shoes. But that's not even what really made him a billionaire. The greatest wealth Michael Jordan has made in his life came when he bought a basketball team.
Wow.
So the money he made from the brand is what he used to buy a basketball team. And the team he bought for just about, was it under $200 million? Today is worth over $2 billion.
Wow.
So you see that even though he's a sports person, he actually made the bulk of his wealth from being a businessman, owning a sports team.
Wow, interesting.
Exactly.
So apart from, you said there are 3.
Tiger Woods.
Okay. Tiger Woods.
His is likely because it's a brand.
He also own a sport business.
He doesn't really own sports, but he's been paid a lot of money for the last 25 to 30 years.
From his sports? From
adverts, from his brand.
Okay. And the 3rd person?
So another basketballer. He's currently still playing, even though he will soon retire. LeBron James. He too, the same thing. It's largely from a brand, even though LeBron James too has become a heavy investor. He's a shareholder in Liverpool Football Club. He's a shareholder in Liverpool Football Club. He's a shareholder in some other entities like that.
Okay.
So if you're a sports person in Nigeria, for example, if you don't have a global brand, you can become a billionaire. And if you don't also leverage on that brand to have businesses that can create that kind of value, you can get there.
Now, how can someone continually maintain client relationship in order to build successful business?
Every relationship, whether it's clients, marriage, friendship, whatever, has to do with win-win.
Okay.
So, if your client doesn't feel, for you to maintain your clients must feel the product or service you are selling to them meets their needs at a price that they're willing to continue to pay, and they believe they are getting enough value for what they're paying. So that perception is important for a client to keep coming. Of course, the way you also treat the clients, especially when human beings are involved. Human beings by nature want to be treated well. So how you treat that client too becomes very important. A client could leave you and go to somebody that is more expensive than you are because that other person treats him or her better. So as human beings, how you treat your client is important. It's as important as the value you are selling.
Okay, how can an entrepreneur manage risk in business?
First of all, risks in everything. So there's nothing, you cannot do anything in life without a risk. Sitting on this chair, there's a risk. The chair could give up. So everything has risks. So as entrepreneurs, what you need to do is be very well informed so that you can constantly take calculated risks. Risks are very dangerous when you've not calculated and looked at the variables. So if this happens, how bad is the risk too high? There are many decisions you've got to take if the risk is too high. I say no, even though this thing looks very good, it's too risky. I'm not going that way. So you must have what you call your risk acceptance criteria. What level of risk can you take? I'll give you an example. Banks cannot take the risk that venture capitalists can take, because banks are using savings deposits of the public. So for a bank, anything that can put those savings deposits at risk, the bank won't touch it. A venture capitalist is given money by people who know that it's going to take risk, and many of them will fail.
Why did you do that?
Because the way banking and venture capitalism have two different criteria. In banking, what you are looking at is what we call downside protection. If this thing fails, I must not lose money. So I need to protect my downside. I need to ensure that if I fall, there is a net that will cover me. Whereas a venture capitalist is looking for what you call upside potential. He's not interested in if he falls. He's only interested in how high can I go? Why? Because a venture capitalist can invest in 20 businesses. And the two that we do well, we pay for all the 18 that failed, because they're going very high. So you can invest 1 naira and get 30 naira. So if you invest 1 naira out of 20 naira in two places and get 30 naira, he gets 60 naira from those two that worked. The remaining 18 that he lost, it doesn't bother him. A banker can't think like that, because a banker charges you interest. So there's a limit to how high he can go. So what he's concerned about is that I must have a floor, because if this thing fails, when my customers come for their savings, I must be able to pay them. So their mindset is different. What they are looking for and what they can do as risk is different.
Yeah, that means the venture capitalist is basically a risk taker.
They are more attuned to take risk.
What's the process of hiring staff? Like typically, if you want to hire staff, what is the process you go through when it comes to hiring staff? And also, what's the process you go through when it comes to firing non-performing staffs or airing staffs or staff that are outrightly bad?